Fighting with technology here. Little slow getting on here tonight, but this is the cardiac Razorback, another cardiac Razorback edition of Hogville YouTube Net Live. I can't even get that right. The Razorbacks. I really thought this would be a grind game for the Hogs tonight. I've said that earlier on Drive Time Sports, just before the game started, about an hour before, that this might not look like it did in the last game where Arkansas really blew the doors off. This was always going to be a physical, grinding game. This was a low-scoring team coming in, holding its opponents to low scores and low field goal percentage. Relatively speaking, there was a lot of physicality, I thought, in this game. The whistles were flying in the second half, which benefited Arkansas. We're going to talk about all of it. But welcome again, live, Hogvillenet YouTube. Better to be, no matter how ugly it is, and that was ugly basketball, by the way. It's always beautiful when you win. Arkansas's 8-1. I kind of wondered, would they be looking ahead to Oklahoma, this weekend as a revenge factor, even though there's 11 newcomers on this team. Eric Musman's going to want to beat Oklahoma. Devo Davis, Kamani Johnson are going to want to beat Oklahoma. Anybody that's competitive is going to want to win that game, and I think there's extra motivation. So you didn't want to stumble midweek or early week before you get into Saturday, and I thought the Razorbacks, this is a second-half team, and tonight it wasn't as much about execution in the second half as it just was about who's going to win the physical battles. And the whistles went Arkansas's way, and I thought that was the right thing. I really do. This was a team that reached a lot, used its hands a lot, used its hips, shoulders, forearms, used it on both ends of the floor, offense and defense. In fact, the ball handlers, I thought, for Greensboro got away with a lot of arm extensions on drives, almost like a Heisman pose on their drives to the basket sometimes. They didn't bring it from a folded position and extend it out as much, which is where you'll see that call a lot. But they kept their arms out almost in a permanent Heisman pose, so they could, keep defenders away, kind of neutralize Arkansas's length and athleticism. But you saw Arkansas get through just an awful night offensively. I thought, this was a game where Arkansas wants to get to the basket. We know that's the strength of this team, and they just weren't patient enough on offense to really work to that strength. They took a lot of threes. Some of them really early in shot clock. You got guys taking threes you might not want to take that many. We'll go through all of it, but I thought Arkansas in the second half did a little bit better job. They still took, in my opinion, some ill-advised threes, but you finished the game, and it's ugly, 3 of 18. So you had 8 attempts in the first half. You didn't make any of those. You go 2 of 6 in the second half. 2 of 10 in the second half, so you continue to jack them up. And that was the difference of the game, was free throws versus three-pointers. This was not a good three-point shooting Greensboro team coming in, but that team did manage to make 9 out of 28. That's a little higher percentage, nearly 33%. They came in right at 30, and they make 9 to Arkansas's 3. Arkansas had to make it up at that free throw line, finishing 26 of 33, but money in the second half, 23 of 27. That's over 85%. Greensboro shoots 7 of 11 for the game. So that's where the difference was. Because when I look at everything in this game, Arkansas coming out 65-58, when I look at everything in this ball game, there was no huge advantage anywhere. Points to the paint, Arkansas's +4. Fast break, Arkansas scores 4 points, the other team scores 3. You lose points off turnovers. Arkansas lost the turnover battle, lost points off turnovers, but they were -7 at halftime, 9-2 in points off turnovers. The game, they end up -3, 9-6. So they didn't give up any points off of turnovers in the second half, and they were +4 in that final 20 minutes. So sometimes in a grinding game like this, you can lose the overall battle, but you got to be a little better down the stretch in certain areas, and Arkansas was just good enough. Again, we've talked about the free throw line at times this season already where Arkansas is just not getting there enough, not converting enough, and sometimes their opponents are taking more. This time at home, it worked out in Arkansas's favor. Again, when you look at that free throw line, and for the game you're +16 at the line, in a game you win by 7 points, and you're getting, the other team's making threes, you're not. Greensboro, you got to give that team a lot of credit for its game plan, the way that it plays. Arkansas's had trouble with zone defenses. Tonight they had trouble with man-to-man, but there's some zone principle, even the way they play man, because there's always help. Most teams have help, but there was always a floater. Arkansas, really, especially when we'll get to Trevin Brazil, don't know anything on him other than he left with 7 minutes and 30 seconds left, went down, looked like lower leg, looked like the knee. just with about 7.5 minutes left in the first half. So that was a big loss for Arkansas. Tip of the cap to 2 Razorbacks tonight that got double-doubles. We're going to go through everything. Let's start with Nick Smith Jr., just his 3rd game as a collegian, his 2nd start. It's really his 2nd game. That first game, that was 6 minutes. Throw that away. 2nd game, 22 points. He was 9-11 at the free throw line, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 block, 1 steal. You saw his competitive spirit on the floor. On the defensive end, you saw his. There's a drive within him that comes out. I mean, he wears it on his sleeve. Anthony Black's a competitive guy, but he doesn't really change the facial expression very much. You don't see him wear it as much on his sleeve. I'd say the same about Ricky Council. Nick Smith, you're going to see some of that emotion come out, but he's a guy that plays with that and feeds off of it. It's not a negative. Looking at Mekhi Mitchell, starting as usual. He's been a guy I think that's been better for Arkansas in first halves of games. Tonight he put together 2 big halves. His first double-double as a Hog, 13 points, 14 rebounds. That's huge. And then how about those 4 blocks? And he had a couple of steals. This is a big night for Mekhi. And then we're going to go down the list here. Devo Davis, look. Devo had his struggle points in this game. He took a lot of shots. He took some shots early in clock. But here's a guy that banged out 10 points, 10 rebounds, and had 3 steals of his own. Arkansas doesn't win that game without his gritty performance. There were big plays, 50-50 ball plays that he made. In fact, I think when he got that defensive rebound and got fouled late in the game with about 4 minutes left, that was when his 2 free throws, I think that's when he broke the 49 all tie, and Arkansas would never, Arkansas led the rest of the way, even though it was back and forth, still a 1-possession game. Then AB hits a big 3 with about 3 minutes left, stretches Arkansas, gives it its biggest lead, 5 points at that point, 54-49. Going off memory now, I think a couple of possessions later, Greensboro hits another 3 to get back within 2. Then Council gets fouled with under 2 minutes left, knocks down both free throws. We're going to keep talking about free throws because Arkansas was huge in that second half, especially down the stretch, making all of them. But Arkansas goes back up 4 on those Council free throws. Then Nick Smith gets a steal, goes coast to coast and 1. Arkansas goes up 7. It got down to I think it got down to a 3-point lead after that with another 3 later. I believe that's right by Greensboro. But again, Arkansas makes free throws at the end. This is a game where, we talked about against Troy, it became a one-on-one game, no assist, just taking over one-on-one. This was literally a game about being up to the physical challenge. You've got to find a way to draw contact. If you continue just to shoot threes, you're not going to get any calls. You've got to try to get the ball to the basket. And I thought Ricky Council did a better job late in the game of doing that. Not finishing, obviously. He had 1 field goal, was 1 of 7. Although the field goal was obviously big in a game like this. But, just drawing fouls, getting the line. Devo being a hustle guy, getting to the free throw line. And paying off. Devo was 4-4 at the line. We got to remember that too. He made all of his free throws. I mentioned Nick Smith, who gave Arkansas it's the 2nd game in a row where he's been their best offensive player in the first half. And that carried over in the second half as well. He had a really big start, hit Arkansas's first 3 to cut that 5-point lead down to 2. But, you score 21 points and trail by 5 in the first half, and you look back on a 65-58 win in your Arkansas, you go, well, we managed to score 44 second-half points. The problem there is that, the other team found ways to stay in the game. So some of the comments are popping up. I want to get to all of them. I haven't been looking at them, honestly, kind of going through some of the stuff that mattered. Arkansas does have a +8 advantage on the glass. These teams were evenly matched when you look at statistically coming in on the rebounds, both averaging between 35 and 36 a game. Yeah, Mekhi was a beast. He really was. I thought he did a good job against their bigs of being patient and just waiting on them. This is not an above-the-rim team, not in their backcourt, not in their front court. They only averaged 2 blocks a game coming in. So the smart thing to do when they got the ball deep, and they did, they got penetration all night, sometimes the handoff or in tight end pass, and then they'd have the ball deep, and Mekhi did a good job of just sitting back and waiting for the player to turn and get in it, and he didn't overreact and leave his feet too soon. And he knew that that he'd be able to get up higher than the guy he was guarding, even that close to the basket. So I thought he did a good job of timing up some of his defensive plays. And then, again, when Brazil's out, he was your double-double guy or close to it in several games. And Mekhi steps up in that role tonight. And Arkansas absolutely had to have it. In a blue-collar grind game like this, you need one of your bigs, and this is why you get all that depth. And this is one of those games. We keep talking about how Musselman's got 10, 11 options on that bench. One of those games where only 5 players really play the heavy minutes. But here's what's interesting. 5 more guys got in playing 9, 9, 3 in 1 minute, and Jordan Walsh playing 8 minutes. So what's interesting about this, Walsh started, obviously, didn't factor into this game with much of a role when you look at the minutes. And you saw Kamani, Trevin's minutes before he went out. Graham plays 3. He was ineffective. I mean, he really, the flashbacks to some of his, it wasn't a large body of work, but there was a couple of poor possessions at both ends. But how about Darian Ford having his number called at the end of the first half to play defense? Arkansas's got several backcourt players in foul trouble. You don't want to counsel or a Black or someone to pick up an extra foul, so you get Darian Ford out there. Musselman's only, again, 5, 6, 7 deep when you really look at the minutes and who plays the main parts of games. But he used that bench tonight in spot duty, and that's something we've seen so far this year, and I think we'll see more of it. This is not typical at Arkansas under Musselman. So the tight rotation is, and when you look at the minutes, it still looks that way, but he's using more guys at more opportunities to buy time or to get an advantage, whether it's a matchup, whether it's foul situation, whatever. Tonight it was an injury with Trevin Brazil that caused Musselman really to go outside of Mitchell with a 4-guard lineup. Arkansas really stuck to that. And Walsh, who typically plays at least half the game, 25 minutes, at 6'7" with his 7+ reach, is kind of like a combo 3-4, so he's kind of like a 4 out there at times. Arkansas went smaller than that. You saw a lot of Devo. You saw some Kamani come in, but Musselman ends up riding Devo to the end, and I thought that paid off. As frustrating as some of those possessions were with some shots, and I'm not going to get all over Devo because here's a guy that just had a double-double, made all his free throws, and made big plays to help Arkansas win that game. I mean, Devo was huge. But so we've kind of gone through the individual stuff. Texas lost by 7. Well, I guess that's not the best team in the country more. They had a lead against Illinois. I haven't seen the final score, but I'm going off the strength of that. I'm starting to read some of the comments. It's Hogvillenet YouTube. Look, guys, you need to go to hogville.net where we have a ton of content, whether it's football. I mean, Otis Kirk's written like 1 billion stories in the last 24 hours with everything that's going on in the football program. Odom leaving, player portal, commitments, whatever, you name it. Otis Kirk's all over it. Dudley Dawson, he's like a utility guy. He's covering every sport, helping out in every sport. He's got baseball nailed down. And then, of course, our basketball coverage, we've got obviously a lot of written content. We do a lot of stuff there, but we love these YouTube lives, these Hogvillenet YouTube lives after games to interact with you and go through everything. It's a lot of fun. It's especially fun when you win. There's more than one way to skin a cat. Arkansas had to get it done in the blue collar. I even said it on the radio early tonight. Arkansas knows how to win these kind of games too. Yes, RC4 was clutch with the free throws. Is Brazil okay? We don't know that yet. We don't know. We know that he returned to the bench. It didn't look good, and he couldn't put his own weight on it to walk himself off the court. He had to have help there. He was grimacing. He tried, it looked like, when they were walking him off. Matt Townsend, the trainer, and Ronnie Brewer Jr., well, they're helping him off. It looked like he tried to put weight on it maybe a couple of times, and he couldn't. But we can't speculate off of just that. We don't know what it could be, so we're not going to talk a lot about it. It looked like a knee situation to me. Maybe Musselman's addressing that, maybe not, and with more specifics in postgame. I'm not there tonight. Doctor's orders, so I stayed back in the 501 at home here in Little Rock and watched it, doing my game story from television. But look, Trevin Brazil is a big piece to what Arkansas is doing. You hope whatever it is, it's not going to be something that lasts very long and keeps him out for very long. And no matter what it is, that young man's going to work hard to get back as soon as he can. Why did Walsh play so few minutes? I really think this was about strategery and matchups. Arkansas, this was a very physical battle. And Walsh at times tends to get out of positions, tends to get in a hurry, and also tends to foul. And I think Musselman, I'm not hanging all that on him, and those are all the reasons why he didn't play as much. I just think in this matchup, Musselman made some other choices that I think in the long run helped Arkansas. Jordan Walsh is a fantastic player as a true freshman. I believe that. I wouldn't say it if I didn't. And there's some maturity and growth for all of these young players that they're going to go through. But this is one of those games where I thought Arkansas getting a little smaller Because if you looked at the guards, the perimeter players for this other team, Greensboro, they really put the ball on the floor and did a lot of probing and searching. And so there was a lot of quickness, a lot of getting a shoulder by a guy and then just pressing, and putting pressure on defenders. And I'm not sure Jordan, as good as he is with his feet and moving laterally at times, I felt like maybe he'd be a little bit, subjected to some of that. Muss always says each game has its own identity. And boys, he right. Good win on a bad shooting night. Brazil got his knee hurt. I don't know. And that faded off. So I don't know what the follow-up was on that comment. So, just recapping just on the part about Jordan Walsh, he's obviously going to have big nights for Arkansas. Has helped this team win already. He's been a big hand in Arkansas winning some big games. And look, Arkansas had close games in Maui. It's probably a good thing they had some of that already under their belt for a game like this. That's not to say had Arkansas not played Maui that they wouldn't have found a way to go ahead and win tonight. It wasn't just a bad shooting night. I thought Arkansas made bad choices on offense. Arkansas, when you talk about some of the turnovers, Musselman talks about them being shooting yourself on the foot. Sometimes a possession, when it's not an actual turnover, can feel like one because you took a bad shot. You took a shot that's not in your wheelhouse a little too soon, didn't give yourself a chance. And I think, that's what we saw a lot of. In the first half, even the second half, again, Arkansas took 8 threes in the first half, didn't make any, still took 10 in the second half. Nick hits a big one to get Arkansas started in the half. AB hits a huge one late. I mean, here's a guy that went 2 of 4 from 3. So he gets 2 of the 3 makes for Arkansas. He shot 50%. And he's not a guy that typically you would have thought even coming in the season that you wanted shooting threes. Well, he's had several games now where he's been okay from 3 and he's hit some big ones. So, this was not Ricky Council's not offensively. He's been in double figure scoring every game until tonight. He gets to 8 points, but it's not the points with him. He played 37 minutes. He did some good things defensively. And I thought the free throw line, here's a guy that stepped up and made him. And so each game takes on its own identity tonight. Arkansas's alpha on the point block was Nick Smith Jr. Here's a guy that scored, at all 3 levels when you look at it. And, he didn't have his best 3-point shooting night. He did knock down a big one to start the second half, but 9 of 11 at the foul line. This is another thing. This is a guy that gets to the line in bulk for you. And so when he's playing 39 minutes, that led the team, by the way. Look at the elevator ride in 3 games, 6 minutes, 24 minutes, 39 minutes, Nick Smith Jr. One more thing I want to say about Anthony Black. He had some early foul trouble in this game, came out for a little bit. Arkansas needed to get him back in. He ends up playing 33 minutes. Box score plus 16 to lead this team. It tells you just how valuable he is. Too many times there was only one pass and a shot. Right. I saw guys dribble up and then take a shot. I think there might have been possessions where there wasn't a pass or not more than one. Excuse me, guys. I'm a little under the weather. That's why I stayed back tonight. AB sometimes, teams leave him wide open too. He's not taking contested threes. That's not a knock on him. It's actually a compliment because how he can beat you in so many ways with a drive or a pass. And he's making teams pay. He did tonight at times. But I don't know that you necessarily want him escalating, increasing his volume of takes per game. 2 of 4, you'll take that every time if you're Arkansas from Anthony Black. I don't know that you're in a great spot if the defense is doing its job well enough where he's taking a ton of threes every night. Because I don't think he's going to take them just because they're there. I think he's going to be more patient. I think he may have rushed one. He'll typically be more patient and look for a better shot and make the defense work. So he's pretty cerebral. That's why you see the plus 16 box score when he's on the floor tonight. Look, just going through it, I thought, I want to go back to Mekhi Mitchell. This is a guy, look, Arkansas, when they were able to play Nick, Devo, AB, sometimes getting him the ball in good spots. He's got a nice drop step. He's patient with it. He may have rushed 1 or 2. I think he missed I didn't write down his field goal number. Yeah, I did, 4 or 5. So he only missed the one that he rushed and just overshot it a little bit. The other ones I thought he took his time and was patient. I thought he was patient at both ends. I thought he did a good job dealing with the other team's physicality on rebounds. I thought he might have been on some of his rebounds. There was a guard hanging back, Back in the old Nolan Richardson days, Arkansas would leave a guard back after a defensive rebound by the other team to swipe at the ball to try to create a turnover, maybe get a deflection. I thought he dealt pretty well with that, because there was a lot of that tonight. I think, this is a game where you look at Mekhi Mitchell and you say, you understand now why Musselman has put trust in him, faith in him, and has had him in this starting lineup. I mean, there's only 3 players that have started every game: Ricky Council, Anthony Black, and Mekhi Mitchell. Defense stepped up. Good to see that. Nick looks 6'8" when he moves. Why do we have difficulty tonight with penetration dribble? Well, part of that is, I was talking about it earlier, Arkansas settled for a lot of threes. I think the other thing is, this was a team that had some zone, even though it was playing man, there were guys not just hedging, but they were closing quick. When Arkansas's guards would try to maybe get by one guy, there was somebody waiting, and then they would move off of that as soon as you pick the dribble up. This is a veteran team. Arkansas's played several of these mid-major veteran teams. This was a rotation that was 6 seniors, a junior, and a sophomore that factored into the heaviest minutes coming into this game. They got their leading scorer back. He didn't start tonight, Keandre Kennedy. He had a 3, I think, late in the game, but didn't really do much playing off the bench. This is a guy that had missed the previous 2 games with an illness and was back tonight. But, Arkansas's probably for the better that this guy wasn't at full strength and didn't go the whole way. He'd started that team's first 7 games before missing the last 2. I'm not saying he would have been that Arkansas would have lost. I'm just saying that, you'll take that. Arkansas knows what it's like to be without players. In fact, they went, most of this game without Trevin Brazil, which again, you have luxuries in the depth in that front court that you didn't have last year if a Jalen Williams had gone down with an injury or foul trouble and you had to figure it out in other ways. Greensboro had a good game plan against us. Well, Greensboro has it's playing to the way that it plays. This team ranked in the 300s in scoring coming into this in the 60s, mid 60s, and it was holding opponents in the 60s in scoring. Not a good field goal shooting team, not a good 3-point shooting field goal team. Defensively, not great at defending the 3, but Arkansas is not great shooting the 3. So that ended up working in the favor of Greensboro. A good team forcing turnovers and a good team defending inside the arc. And I thought we saw that, aside from some Nick Smith runners, he had a 2 or 3 runners, some other ones that were just off, some others that they blocked his shot. This was not a big block team. This was a team that came in averaging 2 a game. But typically your blocks are around the basket, and they don't have the kind of guys get lift off the floor, but their guards stay attached. And on some of Arkansas's drives by guards, you saw some block shots on guards just being all over them and not having any space there. I love to see the twins starting together. Yeah, it's twins in the starting lineup would be cool. That's everybody's fantasy, right? To get twins together in the starting lineup. We'll see if it's Musselman's at any point. He's not afraid to recruit, sign, play twins. Martin twins, Mitchell twins. He just offered 2 class of 2025 outstanding twins in the Boozers not that long ago. So he's not afraid to play the twins. And we haven't seen Mikkel. We didn't see Mikkel tonight, but he's played. I hope we don't play this way against Kansas in the Liberty Bowl. Well, if you're bringing the basketball-football correlation, yeah, you hope if it's going to be if you want it as a low execution game, you just hope you win it. Well, I'm missing some of these comments. They're going pretty fast. All right, but let's get back into this game. I want to get back to Anthony Black now because we talked about the threes. But what I really like about what he did in the second half of this game, I thought his penetration was better. I thought it was a little bit better. It helped Mekhi out. It helped others out. And you saw Arkansas, there was one play, I believe I think it was AB that found Devo in the middle or maybe vice versa. And then Nick Smith was cutting back door, running that dunker spot. And there was a quick pass and he got to the free throw line on that. But I thought Arkansas did a little bit better of attacking. It wasn't great. But they drew a lot of fouls. And you don't draw fouls unless you're attacking. And so the tempo was a little bit better for Arkansas in the second half. And I think when it sped up, it was just enough where this less athletic, when you look at size, not on Arkansas's par, when you saw some of that, I thought it caught up to Greensboro when Arkansas's pace was just a little bit better attacking, and you saw the fouls called because that's really what that team had to do to prevent Arkansas from scoring baskets. Uh, is that a slobbering hog lamp? You're darn tootin' it is. It was obviously early on. We've devolved to the point where we're talking about furnishings and fixtures in my Razorback room, which, by the way, all this stuff was collected over a lifetime, gathered before I reached the age of 40, and I'm in my 50s now. So I decided I would make a Razorback room out of it. Big note: when you're a top 10 team, you're going to get every team's best usually. Yeah, I mean, Arkansas held this team to, 31% from the field. It shot 64% from the free throw line. It did go 9 of 28 from three for 32%. I mean, this is the way this team plays. And I think Arkansas in some ways played down to the competition. I will give Greensboro credit. Physical team, really knows how to play with contact and dole out contact, and got away with it for quite a while on the whistles, I thought. Offensively, they create a lot of contact on offense as well. But they're coached in such a way where it's not so egregious that you're inviting the whistles to blow every possession. I thought in the second half, again, I thought Arkansas pace was a little brisker. The attention to driving was a little better, even though they did hoist the 10 threes. And I thought that really helped things. Arkansas also got some offensive rebounds to extend some possessions in that second half, which was helpful. This was just one of those games where it just wasn't, there was nothing aesthetically pleasing aside from, really, some Nick Smith stuff. He had some nice moves and a couple of coast-to-coast plays that you like, but, there just was no flow on offense for the most part for either team. And when the other teams got low percentage three-point shooters and they're feeling it a little bit in a game that, this would be the first win against a ranked team, by the way, had Greensboro won this game tonight. So, there's some validity that, teams playing up, getting up for playing a ranked team. There's no doubt about that. And there was a lot of that here. But this was ugly on both sides of the ball. And if that's the way Greensboro likes to play, maybe it was a beautiful thing for that team, and that's exactly what the doctor ordered. But they didn't come out with a win either. And I think the way that they play actually hurt them in that second half, because I think anytime you send a team to the free throw line for 27 attempts in one half of basketball, you're doing something wrong. Except the Homer comment when you're doing it in Maui against Creighton and the whistles seem to be phantom at that point, then you're not necessarily doing something wrong. Well, I think AB said 5 on 8 after that game was his tweet. So I'll ride his coattails on that one. Won us 5 to 6 games last year. Yeah, good free throw percentage. And this hasn't been a good free throw percentage team until lately. 17 of 21 in the last game. That was a blowout. The wheels came off of San Jose State, and Arkansas had everything to do with that and blew that game out. But 17 of 21 at the foul line. That's big time. And then tonight, you go, 26 of 33, but in that second half, 23 of 27. That's 85%. So if you put the last two games together, this went from a not good free throw shooting team not getting to the line enough to now it's starting to get to the free throw line and it's cashing in. And these are home games against mid-major teams where you have physical and athletic and size advantages. Now you're going to match up with something a little bit different against Oklahoma on the neutral site this weekend. Arkansas is the better team, in my opinion, going into this game, but you're not playing at home. You're against another high major opponent that can match some of the quality that you're putting out on the floor. I'm not going to say it's as good a quality, but it's closer. Some firm offensive shows coming the end of January. Well, that faded away before I could read all of it. My apologies. We're almost 30 minutes in. It's Hogvillenet YouTube Live. We love doing this. I get a kick out of this, man. I really enjoy it. I like talking basketball anyway, and it's fresh after the game ends, so there's a lot to go. Watch us score 100 this Saturday against Oklahoma. Well, Oklahoma was 12 points away last year. It won 88-66, so maybe Arkansas can up the ante and Musselman can get his revenge. Musselman and crew. It was clear early on Muss had faded away again. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to catch those comments when they scroll on and then they fade. I'll do better here, probably, maybe. All right, so I don't think anybody thought after the big win just a few days ago that Arkansas would look this sluggish. I don't think there was maybe Musson will speak to it. Maybe he disagrees or says something different. So I haven't heard from him yet. But I always think Arkansas plays with effort. Maybe the energy's not always exactly where he wants it to be, but I do think they play with effort. I just think there was some poor decision making, and again, Greensboro gets some credit, but I think Arkansas um, played into it a little bit. You know, when you're the better team, when you're the more athletic team, when you got the better talent, and you're playing at home, you shouldn't be falling into traps and playing exactly the way the other team wants. Greensboro dictated tempo in that first half, and it turned the game into exactly what it wanted to, just an ugly scrum, and did a better job dealing with those situations than Arkansas did. That's obvious. They led for most of the first half. They led at half. They had a 12-point lead. You know, how many times does Arkansas fall behind by double digits in games, whether it's a mid-major, high major, or whatever? That happens. It happens a lot, and then Arkansas is the second half team. But again, I think it's interesting the pieces. Again, I keep going back to all of the choices Musselman has, and while there are some usual suspects in production for Arkansas night in and night out, you also see some things you didn't expect. And this was a game, with everything that Devo's been through of late, and he's not been as productive maybe in recent games. He missed the game against Troy. Um, this guy, again, I'm going to say it. This is not just trying to pump Devo to pump Devo. This guy had a big, huge hand in Arkansas winning this game tonight. You can make the case that he also maybe some of his decision making helped the other team. But at the end of that game and at certain parts of this game, Devo's hustle plays were just huge. Again, I go back when you're in the backcourt and you get a double points and rebounds game, and then you've got the three steals on that, and you made your free throws when Arkansas really had to have them, just had to have them. That was huge. So kudos to Devo for having that double along with Mekhi Mitchell, which again with Trevin Brazil out, that was nice to have. That was something that I probably didn't expect coming into this game something like that would happen. And I don't know who did. I didn't expect Ricky Council to have this much of an off night. I thought somebody might in a game where I knew the pace would be grinded down somewhat, if not significantly, and it was significant. Again, the second half was better for Arkansas. Anytime you more than double your first half output, you're doing something better. Man, I couldn't read that fast enough. Guys, I'm really struggling reading. Let's get these on. Clock ran out. He chewed on Nick for not playing closer man. He must fouled him. 44 points. Second half was good, but we need better starts. No doubt. I mean, that you want to win. Council should have got an and one, not a charge. That was a close play. It was bang, bang. That official didn't have the best angle, probably. I think from my vantage point after watching it, I would probably tend to agree. I think that you can still be moving and be in a defensive position, but you can't be moving and leaning into a guy. And I thought that player turned while he was still moving and turning. But it was bang, bang. So I understand why it was called the way it was. I might agree that should have been an and one. That happens in basketball. It's one of the toughest plays to call. And I thought Ricky, again, didn't get downhill. They took that away tonight. Credit Greensboro for that. Was a bad call. It was good to see Devo have a good night after the drama the other night. Yeah, exactly. We just talked about Devo, talking about Mekhi and his big night. These guys stepped up. Kamani has stepped up. We've seen Arkansas in these crunch situation games, crunch time, where guys who aren't your big three necessarily, obviously, are stepping up. And now with Nick back, it was a big four when you're talking about him, Anthony Black, Ricky Council, and Trevin Brazil. Trevin goes out hurt. Council has an off night. Nick goes off for 22. I was really pleased with his game overall. I think defensively there's some stuff that he can grow from this and learn from it. I thought there were some times where maybe he wasn't getting to the right spots or quickly enough. And then there were other times I thought maybe he was a little overzealous trying to send a message with physicality or taking a guy's space. But he's a true freshman at the high major level, playing in his third game and really only his second game when you look at a real role in a game. And it was a tight game. And so I thought there's not much. I mean, I'm nitpicking right now. I thought Nick was fantastic. And I think he only had 2 turnovers in those 39 minutes. When you're a primary handler who creates as much as he does, both for himself and others, and you're constantly probing and driving and trying to, create something for yourself or someone else, a two turnover night's not that bad. He did have a couple of block shots of his blocked as well, but you're going to live with that because his production was unmistakably good. I mean, again, scored at all 3 levels for the second game in a row. You want to see that, especially for a team that's going to struggle a lot at times from 3. He's a guy that can really help Arkansas and will help them there. Getting to that free throw line, putting the onus on the refs when he goes in to get him to that free throw line. Nick's going to have a 30-plus point game pretty soon. Absolutely. If that doesn't happen, I'll be surprised. Honestly, I think that's coming down the pike at some point. But it's not always about the points. That's great. How does it help your team? Does it make you? Is it what your team needs? So we know that the object of the game is to score points, but sometimes you can have a bad shooting night, and you keep shooting, and other guys aren't involved. Nick doesn't play that way. He involves other players. I don't think he forces a whole lot. Sometimes it may seem like he's forcing, but look, he's so good in so many different spots. The last guys I really remember being so good and versatile offensively from all 3 levels and in different ways were guys like Mason Jones and Dusty Hannes. There was not many spots in a half court that they weren't comfortable going to their offense. And Nick's one of those guys. I think he's a superior talent to those guys ultimately, but they were great offensive players. So was Nick. Nick looked a lot faster and confident. Yeah, he did. I mean, he had some coast-to-coast plays tonight. The defense didn't have a chance. This is why he translates to the next level. He's got so much craft when he breaks a defender down. He's already reading the help, the hedges, his own teammates moving to spots, and he's picking and choosing from there, and he's just going to get his timing better and better as he goes. And you want to see guys like AB, Devo, Ricky Council, and some of the bigs thrive off of that as well. And we saw some of that tonight. Nick had, I think, 3 assists, some good setup plays for guys. But again, this was a tough team to crack. This was a tough nut to crack. Arkansas did have some turnovers and spots where, some of them were self-inflicted. And really, against a team like this, you've got to, you want, to me, if Arkansas is on the other side of the turnover battle, it probably wins this game. If it's not a minus whatever it was, I wrote it down. But if Arkansas is on the plus end by 3 or 4 turnovers a night, it's probably winning this game by double digits. Against a team like that where the pace is grinded down and the score is going to be low, you win by 10, 12, 13 points. That's basically a blowout. It's just, that's a wide margin win in a game like that. But that wasn't what happened. Arkansas was not good with the basketball. The other team was pretty good with it for most of the game. Nick's still not in shape. He was huffing and puffing. Wait until he gets back in game shape. Yeah, I mean, Nick's gonna he's getting his wind back. He's getting his conditioning back. 39 minutes though, and I tell you, even though that may be true in the second half, I thought he got stronger. Look, he scored. He finished with 22, 16 of his points in the second half. He scored most of Arkansas's points early in that second half to trade blows and to really get back get Arkansas off to a better start offensively. Again, it's Hogvillenet YouTube Live. I'm going on and off with the Clark Kents here. We do this post game all the time. We're going to get back. I'm going to resume when Arkansas plays Oklahoma on Saturday with the pregame as well. We're going to go pregame and postgame. But Hogvillenet YouTube, you got to check out Hogville.net for all our football, baseball, basketball coverage. We're covering other sports. We've really expanded all of that, and I hope you go check it out. I love how Muss holds all these guys accountable on defense. Right. And Arkansas played well defensively. This other team was opportunistic. It was an opportunistic night for this team, and it hit some of those threes were not shots that it's probably used to making. So it's part of basketball. I'm not trying to make excuses for the Hogs. I do think it was just one of those games where you've got to grind it out, find a way to win. This team was not a good free throw shooting team until a couple of games ago, really. It doesn't mean that it's fixed forever, but you had to have that kind of night at the line. You had to have it. You had to be 85% and take 27 in the second half to win that game. And that was how Arkansas got it done tonight. It didn't dominate anywhere but the free throw line. And so again, I think the key here is when you score 44 in the second half versus 20 in the second half, and much of that was at the free throw line, it's a credit to sticking to getting into the defense. You can't get to the line only shooting threes and not challenging that defense. So you had to challenge the defense. Crafty, senior laden teams are kryptonite. I mean, senior laden teams and the mid-major level, we know it's not, just because you're playing at home doesn't mean you're going to win. The bye wins, that era is almost over. I mean, we see it so much in basketball. It doesn't matter where you're ranked. You can lose to anybody any night. And so when most of these teams are coming in with guys that have been around, or they've got veteran guys who not only have been around, but they've transferred in from a high major or a higher level because they're not getting the minutes they want. They're not getting the kind, thus they don't get the kind of production and development that they think they need. And so not only are you seeing veteran teams, but even when they've got newer players, they're veteran guys coming in and transferring in. We see a lot of that as well. And so you've got guys that have played at a high major level at some point on a lot of these mid majors. So we saw some of that 2 games ago against San Jose State. Yeah, but again, I'll go back to, for Arkansas tonight, you find a way. You just find a way. Every game takes on its own identity. When your head coach understands that from all the levels of basketball that he's coached at various pro levels, now in college, he's seen everything. And so the point is, he wants his players to understand that. Understand, if this isn't working, you don't lay down. We're going to find a way. And he gets the right combinations of players. I could see some frustration in Musselman with some of the decision making on some of the guys he rolled with. But at the end of the day, those choices paid off. I can't say it enough. And I'm going to go back to Devo. I do. I think Devo took some quick shots. I think he took some shots that aren't the best for him, and then he struggled in some of the shots that typically do work better for him in the mid-range. But he stuck with him, and this guy, you're coming out of that backcourt with 10 rebounds and 3 steals, so you couldn't get much better in the blue-collar areas. And so really it came down to shooting, and what did he do? He made 4 free throws for you down the stretch when you had to have that kind of efficiency on a night where not much else was working. So it paid off, and it paid off big. I think Mekhi Mitchell riding with him and, just kind of making it his night, he earned that. But at the same time, he's been a guy that's been heavy first half usage, not necessarily as much in the second half. But he had such a big first half, I think 7 points and 7 rebounds, and it just carried over. Even when other guys started to do a little bit more to help Arkansas score, he was always that guy that you could play a little bit through down low. I don't know that Arkansas had any other options with Brazil out. You would think Graham would be, but this was a very physical game, and he's not the most physical player. And I felt like I felt like he was just a little soft in the 3 minutes he played. And I think Musselman felt that way too, and he was out of there. Not trying to dog on him. He'll help this team. He's helped it already. He'll help this team. But this is one game, and it took on its own identity, and we saw how it played out. I really don't think I can't think of another combo other than maybe I'm not going to second guess Musselman. I do feel like maybe there might have been a way to work more Walsh in, but again, I'm not second guessing him. I'm just simply in my own thoughts trying to figure out what maybe could have been done just a little bit different at some point. But I felt like there were things in this matchup that make me understand why he went the way he did with those 5 guys getting the heavy bulk of minutes. And, Nick Smith also changes things in a game like this because, he may have some stretches of the game where he's struggling a little bit, but he can turn it on so quickly. And you talk about spurt ability. That's not my favorite phrase, by the way, or word. You hear a lot of it. But he's one of those individuals that has that ability to flip a switch, and next thing you know, you look up and he's gone for 5, 7, 8 points in 2 or 3 possessions, and it's a game changer. And so he had some of that tonight. Arkansas could just never get over the hump. What was the biggest lead Arkansas had forever was 2 points. I think those 2 free throws by Devo when it went up 51-49, that matched their biggest lead, which they had earlier a few minutes earlier, a 2-point lead. That AB3 put Arkansas up by 5. That became the biggest lead with 3 minutes left. So this was never a game where there was any comfort level for the Razorbacks ever. And I go back now again, broken record. OU is borderline quad 1 on a neutral court. Root for them to win after we beat them. Well, Arkansas's got to beat them. I think they're 46th maybe in net. You've got to be top 50. You got to have a top 50 net ranking in a neutral site game for that result to count as a quad one, win or lose. So Arkansas right now has got a couple that are, San Diego State's 45th. They're right there. I think Creighton, after losing 3 games now after beating Arkansas in that wild game, is 33rd. So that team needs to turn it around. And then OU's just one spot lower than or higher than, however you want to phrase it, than San Diego State at 46. So these are borderline quad one results. So you do always want to root for those teams after, no matter how much you dislike them, no matter what, you want to root for them if you're an Arkansas fan because it makes your resume better if you win those games. And same thing if you lose them. If you lose them, you need them to win because, don't want it to turn into a bad loss. So 45 now. Yeah, the net's going to change daily. I didn't check it. I didn't break it down today, and then it'll change again tomorrow after today's game's results. The Arkansas Razorbacks 8-1. They've won now. They're 6-0 at home since returning from. Obviously, they won their last game in Maui. They've won their 3 games now. I believe it's been 3: Troy, San Jose State, and now Greensboro. So they've winners of their last 4 games and 3 of those at home. And now you go back to a neutral site. It'll be Arkansas's 4th neutral site game. In their first 10 games. I think that's huge. I think that's a big thing for this program to step out and have that kind of non-conference scheduling. It's not only that they're playing on neutral courts, but they're playing worthy opponents. Most of them, you've had high major opponents. No, Louisville's not any good this year. But that's just how it turned out this year. But at the same time, you're playing games away from home. You're challenging yourself before you get into SEC play, which you open up at the end of this month on the road at LSU. SEC looking extremely competitive. Didn't expect Mizzou and Mississippi State to be this good. Well, I thought Mississippi State would be good eventually under this coach. The coach that Arkansas obviously had to match up against when they beat New Mexico State as part of an Elite Eight run. Did a great job at that school and is known as a grinding. You talk about defense and keeping scores low and possessions are so valuable because they grind the game down and dictate pace and tempo to a point where they're, you got to play the right way and you got to take care of the ball and you got to figure out a way. Mississippi State's a good team. This is an unbeaten team at this point. It's top 10 in the net, and I think deservedly so. LSU, I think A&M has been a disappointment so far, but A&M is a team you got to watch because so far under Buzz Williams, they've not been good in non-conference play, and then they get in the SEC and they're tough. And we saw how they finished SEC play last year, gave themselves a chance to make it to the NCAA tournament. Had a really good run in that SEC tournament after being really pretty good in the league play relative to what it had done in non-conference. So I think this league's going to prove to be outstanding again. And maybe better than we thought with some of these programs that have new coaches. Sorry, some of these are coming and going fast. Auburn looking wishy-washy. Mizzou gets Kansas, Illinois, Kentucky, then us. Yeah, there's other teams out there playing tough schedules, and they're going to get tough. If you're in the SEC, you're playing a tough schedule because it's a really good basketball league. All right, we're pressing 50 minutes. This is where the battery starts to go. I was at 100% when I started, and it's already starting to drag a little bit. I can see the delay. Hogvillenet, U2 Live. I've loved having you on here. Arkansas wins tonight, 65-58 over Greensboro. It wasn't easy. It was ugly, but a win is beautiful after all the dust settles. You're glad to get it. Arkansas now turns its attention to Oklahoma, unranked but still a worthy high major opponent. We know what OU did last year in this game. Arkansas tries to get revenge in Tulsa on Saturday. That game starts at noon. We're going to do a morning pregame, and then we'll have a postgame again. I love being with you guys. I'm going to really work to do better on reading these comments better, and we'll see what's going on with Trevin Brazil. We're going to have a lot to talk about later in the week. Good to be with you. Good night.